is amazing. This is the smallest grid that I've seen in the 9 o'clock hour for 2 months. So, but I'm glad you're all here. Let me introduce myself. My name is Michael Laws. Now, there may be some people coming in. We'll try and keep it as quiet as possible.
And supposedly, they say this is the bed and the room where Lincoln died. And there goes Joe. And right there is the Ford Theater, where on the 14th of April, 1865, he was shot. And right there, directly across the street in that center house, is the house where he died the next morning on the 15th, about 7 in the morning. And that's the Ford Theater that we just were in. Now we're over here on the mall. And of course there's the Capitol. And there's of course the old archaeologist who turned tourist. There's the White House. The Lincoln Memorial.
Here we are in Washington, D.C., in front of the old Smithsonian Institute, 150 years old. Also the final remainder of the famous Washington cherry blossoms. We had dinner last night with Lisa. Lisa met us at the airport. Jenny Johnson, who is Francis Thomas's granddaughter, was with us last night, and that was a great pleasure to be with her. We're looking forward to being with Francis in about a week.
There's the Capitol up there.
Hello, I'm Lisa, and this is Sam Rayburn Building. Next to it is Longworth, and then the next one up is Cannon. And we're on the south side of the Capitol, and the Washington Monument's down there, and we'll get that in a second. And we're going to take some pictures from the front, and we're having a good time here in Washington, D.C. with Grandpa. Okay. The second one, building on the right down the mall, is the National Gallery, and then the second one that we can kind of see is the Natural History Museum, and then of course the Washington Monument and the grassy mall all the way down. And way in the distance you can see the Lincoln, the square Lincoln. And then your Air and Space Museum is blocked by these trees over here.
Looks like they grow tulips out here.
Hey, you ready to go to lunch?
Beautiful. And of course that's the Capitol Mall, and that's Pennsylvania Avenue. Just a classic patriotic shot. National Air and Space Museum. We just ate at the Old Ebbitt Grill. We took Lisa and Alex, her roommate. That's a woman, Alex. And we're in the National Air and Space Museum right now. Bell X-1, Spirit of St. Louis. There's the Wright Flyer. That one I can't recall at the moment. Look at that.
It's probably the X-15. This is the X-15, which was used by me when I was working at Missiles and Space, developing the program for the space shuttle. This airplane provided a lot of the basic information about the design and testing of the space shuttle.
And there's the Spirit of St. Louis again, right there. The actual one, the Bell X-1. There's an F-104 Starfighter for NASA. What was this thing over here, Joe? Which one?
That's the T-2, the first
Which one? The snub nose?
Yeah.
Okay.
The first transcontinental.
I've seen
flight.
that on the Wings program.
Yeah, that's the T-2. I made a model of that when I was about 12 years old, I guess.
And there's a human-powered airplane. Go, tell me.
This is the Lockheed Sirius that Colonel Lindbergh and Ann Lindbergh used in their Trans-Pacific survey flights for Pan American Airways.
That's what I see. That's what.
And Ann Lindbergh personally designed and supervised the construction of the canopy on that airplane, and it was the first airplane with a canopy. This is the Lockheed Vega. This is a Lockheed Vega, similar to the one flown by Wiley Post. Carol had a ride in one like this with Frank Tallman at Palomar Airport, and she's the only person I know that had a ride in one.
Arlington National Cemetery. They tell us there are 250,000 graves here. You can see they continue way on over there in the next field. And they add approximately 100 graves per week. We think that's General Lee's house up there on the hill. We'll go there later.
Yeah, it's called. This is Aunt Adelaide and Uncle Ben. This is Aunt Adelaide and Uncle Ben, Arlington National Cemetery. Aunt Adelaide was my father's sister. Uncle Ben retired as Rear Admiral of the United States Navy, Chairman of the Naval Examining and Retiring Board, the highest position of medical officer today. This is Section 6, grave 5790. This is the grave site of my Uncle Sam, my father's brother, who died in 1931.
Okay, you can't read it, so I'm going to try to read it. Samuel H. Ware, Captain, QMC, U.S. Army, 1879 to 1931, and wife, Mabel Anita Ware, 1887 to 1971. This is Section 7, grave 8336. Just wanted to shoot some of this Arlington Cemetery. Look at the beautiful blossoms. You can see them in the distance there behind Joe. We're near the tomb of the unknown soldier, which is right up that way. Changing of the guard ceremony. Tomb of the unknown soldier.
This is the grave of my father, Colonel Joseph F. Ware, in Arlington National Cemetery. My father was a distinguished veteran of World War I, received many awards, many decorations, was chief civil officer of Army occupation, and fairly happy.
And he's here on the hill just to the west, northwest from the tomb of the unknown soldier. Lovely, lovely place. His grave is in section 1381 W6. There's the unknown soldier. And you can see how pretty it is around the area. It appears that Mary may have put her name on the back, or someone has put Mary's name, his wife, on the back of the stone, but I don't think she's buried here. What do you think of this, Joe?
Fine.
Here in Arlington, this is Arlington House. It is General Lee's house, they tell us. He lived in it before the Civil War. Then the feds took it away from him and wouldn't give it back after the war. At least that's what the man at the door said. So he lived elsewhere after the war. Joe tells me he lived in Lexington, Virginia after the war. And you can see how lovely it must have been here. Look at the site. See over there the Lincoln Memorial. And you can see, of course, the Washington Monument.
Capitol.
And there's the Capitol. And there's Lisa's office building and our hotel. Lincoln Memorial.
Excuse me, can you take a picture? Thank you.
There he is, the first Republican. 77 years ago. Read all that. Jefferson Memorial there's excerpts from his writings all around. I think you recognize that one.
This is Mount Vernon, home of the first president of the United States, George Washington. The city of Washington is up the river that way. Directly behind me is the Potomac River, the beautiful Potomac River.
Mm-hmm. This is lovely. There's beautiful Mount Vernon houses, and over there are slave quarters behind those trees.
We're standing in the battlefield outside a little town of Manassas. It was the first major battle of the Civil War, only 35 miles from the nation's capital. There was a group of Confederates camped out here, and the Union Army came out to do battle. Behind them came all of the ladies and gentlemen in their finery, in their buggies, to watch the killing of all of the Confederates. However, the Union Army routed and fled to Washington, D.C.
Okay, Joe, you're gonna have to drive off the damn Yankees.
Bang!
That's a real good one. Okay.
The Second Battle of Manassas wound up in this same spot, but commenced about 2.5 miles as I point. The result was the same. The Yankees routed and fled into Washington, D.C. The Confederates didn't follow.
Which they should have, he tells me. See the cannons over there? The damn Yankee cannons?
This is a monument to General Stonewall Jackson of Virginia, who was the major director of the battles of Manassas, which were won by the Confederates. Stonewall Jackson won the name by having his men stand against the Federals like a stone wall.
You're a good newscaster, Joe.
There are the Union cannons that were used in the Battle of Manassas. But notice, there are no Yankees around here anymore.
It says there that this is where Stonewall Jackson died. The wind is threatening to blow me away at the moment. It says that General B said, form, there stands Jackson like a stone wall. And that's where Stonewall Jackson got his name. This is here at Manassas.
This is 404 Clay Street, Blacksburg, Virginia. Grandma's blockhouse, and Jenna has the camera aimed at the upstairs bedroom where I was born.
Well, this is the whole front of the house. Joe was born in that window right there. Now I zoomed in on it, right there. Okay? And up there's the chimney that he pulled off the roof with his antenna. And down there's the yard where it fell.
That's right.
So right next door over there was where Charlie Frank and his mama lived. And Joe installed the electrical system in that house, right, Joe?
That's right. I had a job at 25 cents an hour.
And then up here is the neighbors, and up there's the rectory.
That's the principal rectory.
The antenna that he had went from the top of that one all the way down the street.
This was called the room over the living room. And it was my mother's bedroom. And I was born in it. The room over the dining room is the room next over there. And the room over the kitchen is the one that we came through.
And this house across the street?
And that was James Massey's house.
Yeah.
And
How about that?
The house next up was Jimmy Beggs' house.
There's Jimmy Beggs' house. Right there. Okay.
Okay.
There's the back of the rectory. Joe's antenna went from that chimney to that chimney to that chimney and on down the street. You know? You see General Lee's home, General Washington's, Jefferson's. You got to see the home where our greatest 20th century flight test engineer lived. Right? By the way, those were not slaves' quarters at Mount Vernon. Those were the slaves' quarters were on the other side.
This was Mama's and Charlie Frank's house. And my room was the room
over the front porch.
Over the front porch, over the little portico.
Right there. The little portico, we call it?
And this little room here was supposed to be Charlie Frank's office room if somebody came and
Okay.
wanted to see him.
There, Joe.
This is my beloved cousin Louisa,
Louisa Decker.
in Blacksburg, Virginia.
Mm-hmm. You want to say hello, Louisa?
Hi, Joe. Hi. Gina.
Lovely, lovely Virginia Tech. We went over and saw Louisa, talked with her for a while. Enjoyed that. The duck pond is over that way, to the west. Lovely, lovely. Look at Virginia Tech. Admin building. The schoolroom where Joe taught is over there that way. There's Joe. This was Joe's classroom where he taught. And his office is right down there at the end of the hall, and he's in there right now. You go right through that door and turn left 45 degrees for about 8 feet, and there you are.
This is Holden Hall, named for Dr. Holden, who was the head of the geology department when Uncle Heath got his geology degree. My office was at the far end to the west, the second floor, and my classroom was above the doorway on the second floor.
Right there.
That was 1940 and 41.
There's Burris Hall, the administration building. Don't you just love this old stonework? It looks so permanent, solid, secure. And there's Patton Hall right there. And right over there is Holden Hall, where we were a moment ago. This is lovely. And there goes a male cadet. I think. That's what it looks like from here. There's Monticello. My favorite U.S. presidents, I think, were Jefferson and Lincoln. Joe?
Yeah.
Who are your favorite presidents?
I'd say Washington, Jefferson, and Lincoln.
Like those? Okay, this is supposed to be the Capitol building at Williamsburg. We're in Williamsburg. And this is where it was our Virginia's colonial government house for 75 years in the 18th century, up until about 1776, I guess. This is where Patrick Henry denounced the Stamp Act, they say. And there you can see, oh, there's a natural colonian right there. And this, you can see all the houses, you know, that are in line, oh, for about a mile, mile and a half, something like that, in Williamsburg. We're in Shields Tavern. It's supposed to be 1745 in here. See the style of chair and all that. The prices aren't as bad as I thought, so I told him to send the doctor away. Little bitty courthouse. It's supposed to be one of the few, well, supposedly 1/4 of these houses are original, but I think that means that 1/4 of them have some original foundation or something. Oh, Fife and Drum Corps at Williamsburg. Governor's mansion down there.
This is the Chamberlain Hotel at Old Point Comfort, also known as Fort Monroe. The hotel was built in 1928 in its present form and was a very, very fancy and expensive hotel in the 30s.
It's on the Chesapeake Bay.
We're now looking at the Chesapeake Bay.
And this thing is just up the street from Joe's grandpa's house, which happens to be right across the street from Battery Parrot. This is from our room 608 in the Chamberlain Hotel in Hampton, Virginia. Fort Monroe is in Hampton, Virginia, and this is Fort Monroe. Little marina over there, little Chesapeake water. And you can see there's a Chesapeake on the other side. And there, beyond the wall, is the old fort of Fort Monroe. All of this is now the new fort of Fort Monroe. You can see there's a moat. One had to go across the moat over a bridge that's behind those trees, and then through this wall, which goes clear around the old fort, and we will drive through that little bitty bridge through a little tunnel through the wall to get into the old fort of Fort Monroe. The museum is over there, and up that way is where James Ware lived, Joe's grandpa.
This is Battery Parrot, which fired 12-inch coast artillery guns, which rolled and rattled the earth. And when we were here visiting Grandpa at this house right over here, that was Grandpa's house, and we visited him when they fired these guns and rattled the earth. And next to Grandpa's house is his office, and my father and Adelaide were all raised in this house.
This moat surrounded, see over there is his grandpa's house. This moat surrounded the fort, has added defense against the invaders, whoever they may be, at any time. And there's one of the little tunnels that one would go through to get inside the fort, through the wall. I'm running out of tape. You can freeze frame that to read it.
I think this is the chair that Grandpa Ware gave to President Jefferson Davis.
That he used, right there it says, during his imprisonment in Carroll Hall, right here on Fort Monroe. It doesn't say, and we can't be sure. And right here is where he stayed when he was imprisoned here at Casemate at Fort Monroe.
Kennedy Space Center, Cocoa Beach, Florida.
Tonight they'll be launching an Atlas over there, and
Pad B.
so they'll be tracking.
We're on launch pad 39B here at the Kennedy Space Center, and goes up in May.
Gets moved. Once the rocket gets moved out, then we'll move back over that area.
You can give a hug. You can talk to one another. Tell stories. Who is it? Who you got here, Joe?
Yeah. This is Frances Ramsey and her father,
Her face is in shadow.
my grandma's brother.
And his mother was my first cousin.
That's right. That's right.
I don't have many. I have one left. No, not many first cousins. Margaret's cousin. Well, when you come,
When we actually
Yeah, Francis balcony.
we walked across the street to
well, you
Looking
know
to
when
the
I
east.
lived across the
To
street.
the
the
west.
I was thinking of turning in.
Yeah, you recognize it? Well, Sam Moore, my number 3 husband. Well, his daughter and son-in-law
Yeah,
live
next
in
time.
that apartment now.
Oh, they
I
do?
sold it to them, and I just did.
This is the interior of Francis Ramsey's home. It looks...
Now you go get my flowers.
Don't get your what?
No, my closet.
Don't open your closet. Okay. I'll go over and look out the window. As you can see, behind me, to the west, you can see the inland waterway. And ahead of me, over here to the east, you can see the Atlantic Ocean. It's pretty. Nice scenes. Using up the rest of the tape.
Well, won't it take 4 sections to protect these windows, Joe? Wouldn't it take 4?
Yeah, I guess
Yes.
so.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
think it would.
4.
Well, there's a 5th one on this wall over here.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
This is the last day of our trip, and we are with our beloved Frances in her beautiful, beautiful condo, looking out over the inland waterway, the swimming pool, and all of the beautiful buildings in this part of Florida. The ocean is just over that way, and the channel is over here, the coastal channel. And Frances, we have wonderful, wonderful time with you.
Well, it's
And we
meant
love you
so much to me, Joe. You're my precious, long-lost relative, and I'm so glad you've come. It's been 11 years since I've seen you now. Goodness knows we haven't got 11 more years. So
We won't do 11 next time. We'll come
No,
back
we
sooner.
sure will.
All right,
We
well,
sure will.
All right, you got
We
to
sure will.
make a repeat because I've certainly enjoyed it.
And
Okay.
we're getting ready to drive now to Miami International Airport and board American Airlines for
Yeah.
Los Angeles.
Wave goodbye, guys.
Well, I tell you right now, it's just been wonderful, and please come and
Okay.
I love your Jenna.
So long.
You.
So long, darling.